good afternoon, mob crew, morning, or evening, depending on where you're at. As always, thank you guys so much for taking the time to tune in. Uh, if you can let me know how my voice is, I was listening to my last live and it sounded a little bit lower than usual, so I kind of turned it up a little bit. Just let me know in chat if it's okay, too loud, or just right. I don't want to blow any eardrums. Let me see. That looks good. All right. All right, let's get going. Real quick, as always, we like to give back by featuring a missing person. So, I don't want to do that. Back here. I think we featured her the other day, but I'm pretty sure she's still missing, as far as I checked. This is Haley Smith, missing out of Florida. She's just 12 years old. I've got some more info about her disappearance right here. So full name, Haley Rose Smith, 12 years old, last seen January 19th. So that's what we're looking at 8 days ago, so just over a week. Sometime in the afternoon between 1 and 2, just 5'1", 130 pounds. She was last seen wearing black leggings, long sleeve tan shirt. Haley did have a phone with her, so that's good. But it was going straight to voicemail. That's not good. But if it's at least on, that's good because they can at least hopefully get that phone information and hopefully track it. It says so she went missing out of, I'm trying to look here, Legend Creek subdivision. That is in Santa Rosa County, which is in Florida. And it says between Woodbine and Chumuckla. I probably butchered that highway. But anyway, yeah, so I guess she was caught on, or they're looking for security, anybody that has surveillance cameras in this area between Legend Creek subdivision and, boy, I'm getting some tough words today, Guernsey Road? I think that's how it's pronounced, Guernsey Road there. Again, it's Santa Rosa County, Florida. 12 years old, went missing just over a week ago. All right, let's get going. Let's see if you guys can. Please hit that like button. God bless everybody. Yeah, go Eagles. I'm an Eagles fan. So Eagles and Chiefs. Man, the Chiefs are on a roll. So we'll see what happens, but definitely going for Eagles. All right, let's get going. Okay, if you can, let me know. Because when I did a live StreamYard with Jen on Wednesday, whenever I go from a different OBS or a streaming service and then go back to my OBS, it resets everything for some reason. It's stupid. So last time I was live on Friday, I didn't have any captions. So I'm just going to play a 1-minute recap. If you guys can let me know in the chat who has closed captions on, if you can just tell me if they're working or not.
Heading missing juvenile, 2008 Traffic Court, 1008 Traffic Court, Toledo. Caller guys this morning, they was having a 15-year-old male talking to bed. We are right now 3 blonde hair back my bed, but we're going to turn down. I was going to be wearing a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants. You know, those have a kind of autism. It's the first time it happened. I was going to be in the home before midnight. All the doors are locked at this time.
Informer.
Sebastian Rogers is a 15-year-old autistic teenager who lives in Hendersonville, Tennessee. He was last seen Sunday night on February 25th by his mother, Katie Proudfoot. The next morning on the 26th, his mother went to wake Rogers up and get him ready for school, but Rogers was nowhere to be seen. Sebastian Rogers was allegedly wearing a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants, his glasses, and his keychain flashlight. They also claimed that all of his shoes were accounted for, which means he is most likely barefoot. Okay, if anybody, if it's not working, you may not have the closed caption button clicked on, so it's down. You have to kind of tap on the screen, and it's the little CC up at the top right here. You have to like touch the video if you're on the phone, and there's a thing that says CC. Make sure you have that clicked on. Um, and at best, just reset the or refresh the page. But sometimes you have to actually click it on for it to work. So, Big Brother. So, if anybody doesn't know, like Big Brother's basically surveillance. Uh, I mean, that's the big thing is surveillance. So, and of course, that's what I've been focused on. I think Big Brother will be a big key and crack in this case. Obviously, when speaking with Jennifer Coffindaffer, the Amber Alert, and the whole mysterious thing that, even though he was last seen on the 25th, we have, the FBI and all these posters now saying that he was last seen on the 26th. And I don't think that's, a coincidence. Along with, and if you guys remember, I'll just play this one part. Let's see, do I have it? Or did I cut this out? Oh, I cut it out, of course. Of course I did. But when I went back, so the first day was an endangered child alert, so on the 25th. So when he went missing, it was just endangered. Then somewhere on the 26th, so it's the Tuesday, the 26th they were looking for him. That's day one, which was the endangered. And then on the 27th, the Tuesday, sometime around I think 2 or I think it was 3 p.m. Central Time, is when they updated it to an Amber Alert. So there was something, in my opinion, either the first day or maybe at the beginning of that second day, that they came across something. Sensei says I sound a little bit quieter. Mic check, mic check. I will just turn it up just a tad there. Okay, hopefully that's pretty good. I don't want to be too loud. Let me know how that is. I just turned it up a little bit. All right.
Appeared.
So clearly
I recently figured out.
Clearly they got something, in my opinion, right? But they're just holding on to it. It's an odd case. Usually with Amber Alerts, we get details. We have like a vehicle that's involved, right? But in this case, we don't have that. So, I think they're keeping a lot of things close to the vest. So, I just want to go over something because in my last video on Friday, I kind of explained what some of the stuff that we're missing in as far as context with this surveillance video, right? And how even though the timestamp is stuck at 3:11, they kind of had an idea of what they were like, what time they were looking at, right? And I kind of explained that on Friday the best I could, and I think a lot of people got it, but I'm just going to go over that just a little bit again with some more finer details, just because I think there was some that just, I think maybe because they're on their phone and, the screen's a little bit smaller and they couldn't see the timeline of what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to go over that, and then we're going to jump into a few interviews about them talking about the locks. And there's really three ways that he could go out, right? And so we're going to be kind of focusing on that. And then we're also going to talk about what cameras are, clearly this camera here, they took the server, which I find interesting because it's kind of something that they did in the Idaho 4 case. And we'll talk about that when we cross that bridge. But I think there's some cameras that they took, and that was on purpose because that holds the most valuable information, and they don't want that getting leaked out because obviously we already have this stuff that got leaked out, right? I'll talk a little bit about the ruckus. I know that there's been some photos that look like there's somebody standing next to the car. I just want to give you guys my opinion on what you have to be careful with when you're trying to brighten up this video, because there's a lot of things that may deceive the person when they start brightening it, and I'll explain it. Like you can clearly see some major issues, but let's get into it. So here is, and again, going to try to stay away from SF, but there's a couple of things that I am going to play of his because um, I went back and listened to some things in the way he said it, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's something you need to listen a couple times to actually fully understand what he may be saying. So anyway, here's him talking about the 3 a.m. lights. And of course, this is something I went over Friday, and I'm just going to touch on it just a little bit, and then we'll get into the new stuff.
3 something in the morning.
So just a small clip from Lore Lodge. Of course, I have the link to his video in the description if you want to watch. If you missed the interview with Lore Lodge and SF, but here's SF talking about this camera, and he's leaving out a lot of context.
Watch it again. Watch the upper left corner when it pans across it. That you'll see it's not moving at all. So you got to just forget about that 3 a.m. for a minute. That and be open to it. Could be any time during night hours, right? And so with the owner, now we went and did some recreation tests. Mm-hmm. Two or three nights we did there. The owner was extremely gracious and let everybody on the property. And he said, and I'm gonna take them at their word. There's no reason not to. He said that, again, he didn't. This was an old school camera. It had its own server. He did not know how to export the footage. TBI actually physically took the server from him, but he said,
and that's very interesting. Like I said, keep that in mind that they took this server, even though I'm sure they have techs. They would have known how to extract the footage off his server. But the fact that they just took this thing just kind of shows you the likelihood that whatever, obviously, clearly, there's lights moving and there's some car that turns on. Clearly, there's something important to this, Maybe it's just a big coincidence that all this goes on the night he goes missing. I highly doubt it, and there's a reason why they took this footage. But there's something that he's leaving out. I explained it on Friday, but I'm just going to touch on it again just a little bit because maybe somebody missed that part, and I kind of expanded on it more today.
That when they watched it, he knows it was about, a little after 5 a.m. in the morning. The reason he knows it is because right after...
And see, this part's true. This part that he's saying right here is true. That you could tell what time it was, because I've explained this before, because he skipped to the part where you could see the garbage truck coming.
What we see, which is, keep in mind, that's somebody using a cell phone to record the computer monitor while I was playing. He said right after that, where they cut off, the trash truck turns right onto Stafford and the frame.
And that's where I think he twisted his words, in my opinion.
Well, we know that the trash truck was in front of the Proudfoot home at 5:12 a.m. And I disclosed that to kind of give people something to go off and say, listen,
because you would think he would have told Nick that, right? Because remember, Nick Barris is the first one to get this footage, and then it was sent to like a family member or friend of the homeowner, and that's where we got the 3 other leaked videos. You would think if this was at 5 a.m., right? And Nick Bears comes, right? And this video is allegedly taken just before the trash can. Don't you think he would have mentioned that? Like, hey, this is sometime around 5 a.m. because I know just after these lights move around, there's a big trash can. I mean, a big garbage truck coming right through the screen. I mean, obviously it'd be like a Christmas truck, driving through right here. You couldn't miss it, right? So, right. So clearly that's BS.
If we're going to believe the owner of the house.
And I hate how now he's, in my opinion, throwing the homeowner kind of under the bus, which, again, that's not his fault. He's twisting his words, in my opinion.
Then that's, that's more the time frame, So.
Unfortunately, yeah. And I kind of want to move on from SF, but of course I am going to play a few things. So anyway, let me move this over so we make sure we can get the full context. Because like I said, I try to go back in my comments and read them. I can't get to everybody, but I did realize that there was still people that I don't think fully understood, because I think maybe they might be on their cell phone. And again, it's kind of hard to understand, especially if you've never used this to, like had a surveillance and had this big server. or user interface, there's a lot of context that you're kind of left out with. But as you can see, we've talked about this a million times. He just said it, it was recorded with a phone. And I'm actually going to show, you think you can actually see the person recording it with the phone. And we'll show that a little bit later. But as you can see, before the video cuts off, on the right, we have what's part of the user interface, right? So the person that's recording is kind of zoomed in. But if they zoomed out, we would have seen more of the user interface, which is on the right and below. On the right, we have the calendar. Most of them, like I said, are pretty much the same concept. You have like a calendar on the right, and then you have what's called the timeline on the bottom. And again, I know I explained this on Friday, but I wanted to kind of zoom it in a little bit and just highlight it again because it's really important because, when you actually have the full server like this in the user interface, even though if the timestamp's stuck, you can still kind of get an idea of what time the video's at. And again, of course, this is where he's not telling you stuff like this. And if anybody doesn't have surveillance and haven't used anything like this, then obviously they wouldn't know. So this one is a different user interface, but again, for the most part, they're the same. Down here at the bottom is what's called the timeline, and it just basically, it has different bars, which depending on if you have it set for 24 hours. And the green part, it depends on which user interface. Some are green, some are red, some maybe others use a different color. But wherever the green is at, that's where it's been recording, right? And then all this blank space is that's either up to date or it just didn't record after, a certain part. And again, you can switch your timeline for like a 24-hour period. You can switch it to a 2-hour period. It all kind of depends on your user interface, right? And then each level, because it's kind of like an Excel program, right? Think of an Excel, you have your different rows and columns, right? And so the horizontal lines are your channels. And channels are how many cameras you have set up. So if you just have one camera set up, you would just have one channel, and you would just have one green bar or whatever timeline going, horizontally. But if you got more vertical bars that go horizontal, then you have more channels, more cameras, whatever. Hopefully that kind of explains that. So this one's a much better one. This one kind of looks more like the user interface that this person had. Again, where you have a calendar. I know it's a little hard to see up here on the right, but on the right it's the example. And you have a calendar, you have the month, and I'm going to zoom in here. And you can actually see where the numbers are green. And that means that's the days that it recorded, right? Usually some are set to record for a week. And then, obviously they'll delete, as they move on. It's just they keep 1 week as it goes on, if that makes sense. And so anyway, so you can see which days that you have going back that you've got recorded. And then you have your channels. This one on the right has 4 channels. We can see this one starts at 1 and we can see 9. So as I was saying, this guy has possibly up to 9 cameras. Now that doesn't mean they're all facing outside. They could be inside. They could be in the backyard. But it's possible he has up to 9 channels. So last thing I just want to mention is the reason why I bring this up is because even though if the timestamp is stuck, you can put your timeline to either a 24-hour period. Again, some are different, but most have the 24-hour period. I know that. And then some you can cut it down to 2 hours, 1 hour. And so as we zoom in here, this one's down to the hour. So you can see 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So that'd be a half hour, right? Down here we have a timestamp, but up here we have a counter, and they all have a counter. So that's separate from the timeline. So you can kind of go back and see like where you're at from in your timeline. I know some of that might be confusing. The main thing I'm trying to point at is it doesn't matter if the timestamp was busted. If they have somewhere that they can go to that they know again, with the garbage can truck, where they can just click on it, right? And they see the garbage truck. Well, then all they have to do is then click back a certain period to where those lights are, and then they can see the difference, right? The time difference between knowing when that gas truck or garbage truck, which would be 5 o'clock or 5 a.m., and then they go back about 2 hours and hear these mysterious lights. And you can see this guy clicking on it. He's got a 24-hour timeline stretched out, right? So I know it's kind of hard to see, but you got 4 hours, 8 hours. So you got noon right here, 16 hours, and you can click anywhere on this timeline. Here he's got it at 17, so now he's at 5 o'clock. But he can click anywhere, and again, he doesn't need that timeline, right? That timestamp, I mean, up at the top to like actually know the exact time, because they still have an idea of where they're at, if that makes sense. And again, of course, SFAST is not going to tell you that and just make you think that they just went in blind, not knowing kind of the approximate time. Even though the timestamp is stuck, they still have an idea because they just go to a point that they know that is an approximate time, and then all they just go back, however much time it is until they see the lights. And if it's, about a 2 hour gap, then that tells you that the lights are under around 3 a.m., if that makes sense. And you can see where this guy's going to click, and you can skip forward, you can skip back, and you can see the one timer up here, and then there's another timer down here. So they know like how forward they're going back and forth. So again, I know I kind of explained that on Friday, but I think some people either maybe missed it, or it's, because it's kind of small. But hopefully, does that make sense? Anybody have any questions? Because I just, again, I want to give as much context to everybody that they understand. Like, that was weird. I had a loud bang. I think that was downstairs. Anyway, just make sure nobody's knocking on my door. I must have been downstairs. Anyway, so just an example. It would have been something like this. They would have seen the garbage truck. Obviously, it wouldn't have been on this camera, but it would have been on the camera we've been talking about. And then all they would have done is just click back 2 hours from that time and saw the lights. So hopefully that makes sense. Orange Witch, thank you so much for the $2.99. God bless you. So moving on. Makes perfect sense, Chris. I think I did, officer. I get so many emails. I try to get back to a lot of people, but I will, as always, in between shows, I do get back. So if I haven't, just be patient. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Trying to think if there's anything else I was going to say, but again, this is what they would have had, right? This is what they would have been looking at. This is kind of an example. I'm just kind of overlaying the user interface of a different one that's pretty much similar to the one that they would have had. And again, so the thing that we're missing is somebody is, obviously taking their phone and, kind of pointing at this and moving forward or in and out. And it's cutting all of this other stuff, the user interface part out, if that makes sense. So, but we can see the edges of them, right? We can kind of see the calendar a little bit on the right, even though it's cut off. And we can kind of see the player a little bit on the bottom here, which it's got the play button, it's got the fast forward. And then below that would be what we call the timeline, which is, your channels and your, depending on, if you've got a 24-hour period set up, or you can, this one has two options a day, which obviously 24 hours, or you can narrow it down to an hour, which then it has that 10, 20, 30 minute, all the way up to 60 minutes. So, all right. Moving on. No, that's what SF says. And he twists his words. Because from what I heard, the guy, obviously, think about it. If Nick Barris is coming and he wanted to get an idea, because obviously the guy's going to tell him, like, the timestamp's frozen, right? So, and the next thing, if the garbage truck was right after the lights, don't you think he'd be like, hey, Nick Barris, by the way, I know you're going to, you're going to report this. By the way, we believe this is around 5 a.m. because right after this, the trash truck comes, right? Wouldn't that be logic? I mean, because Nick Barris has got to come and get that, right? From either the homeowner or the friend. Either way, they're going to know. And I'm pretty sure they would have mentioned that. But from what I heard is they went to the garbage truck because they knew what time that was. And then they just went back to the lights, and it was about a 2-hour difference. And so they knew that was around 3 a.m. All right. And then, of course, they took the phone and recorded it. And I'm going to show you guys. I think we can actually see it. I'll explain this later. And so it cuts out like all of the user interface on the right and the bottom. So we don't see that. We can kind of see the outline of part of the player, before it starts to zoom in, depending on which clip you look at.
Watch it again. Watch the upper left corner when it pans across it. That you'll see it's not moving at all. The
video you are about to see is from early Monday morning.
So again, remember, think about this. Nick Barris goes to the homeowner to get this, right? You would think if it was right before the garbage truck, that would be like something huge. Be like, hey, this is around 5 a.m. because right after this, garbage truck comes, right? And don't you think the garbage truck would be like, gosh, there's that car that I saw, I nearly hit as I was coming around the corner. That's where I think, SF forgets, because he never talks about this, the vehicle, the suspicious vehicle, right? He only talks about the lights, which I find very interesting that he never mentions, this big anomaly that kicks on in between the lights moving around. And if a garbage truck was coming around the corner, and that is most likely a vehicle, I've talked about this before, you would think the garbage truck would be like, yeah, I nearly slammed into this guy because he just kicked on his lights, and yeah. Okay, one thing I wanted to correct, because of course this is their argument to where the lights are positioned, even though we've gone over it a million times and we've debunked it, every different way. And now we have, thanks to Pincho's Greatest Minds, I have a link to his channel in my description. He's now doing 3D models, showing you kind of where it's at, where those lights. Again, we've known. Nick Barris, like I said, he wouldn't say that these lights are coming from the backyard unless he literally got that from the homeowner. But he uses SF and put this out the other day, and I think I said that Seth was told to lie, but I think I need to correct that. I think they were just fed misinformation. That they were just told that this was not pointed where it was at. It was not pointed to the backyard, and then it was garbage truck. And so I just want to correct that. And I don't know if he was told to lie or if he was just kind of deceived, if that makes sense, and was told, no, these lights are something else. Because I can tell you, not only the family members, but other people had concerns. And even when they tried to suggest where those lights may be coming from, they were told, no, those are garbage truck lights or whatever. And so trust me, it's not just the family members that were told, if they did question about it, where those lights were coming from. So I think they were, so I want to take back what I said about he was lying. He probably was just deceived. Because obviously it was early in the investigation, and that wasn't supposed to be let out. And of course, they wanted to keep that close to
his parents say he disappeared.
To see.
Okay. Somebody asked me to touch on this, even though I've touched on it a bunch. And I think, Pincho, didn't you kind of put out a video? I haven't had a chance to check it out, though, unfortunately. Yeah, yeah. He isn't helping, that's for sure. Okay, so obviously this is the infamous ruckus video where they kind of zoomed in. They basically cranked up. I don't know if it's the exposure, brightness. I think it's a combination of turning down the shadows and turning up the brightness. I think there was a lot of work done on this. But again, you got to think, and so it does it. When you how they zoom in on this little section here, and you kind of see like movement, and really all that is because the person is. You got to remember somebody's recording it with their phone, and especially as they're moving in. It's like when you're think of people that are trying to like record UFOs or UAPs, whatever you want to call them, and they like sometimes as they're looking at the orb, it goes out of focus depending on what kind of camera you have, and so it starts to move and does different things. And notice as the camera is moving in, notice that's when you see the most activity. And it's not just here, it's anywhere you look, especially like on this truck. You'll see the lights because it's the camera, it's the lens on here now trying to pick up the light on the video, and it's like coming in and out. So it's creating this illusion that stuff's moving around it. Not to say there couldn't be some movement, like maybe back here, with the lights, but clearly, there's no bugs crawling on this truck. I mean, that'd be a lot of bugs. So I think as they zoom in, you'll notice that that's what's going on. You get these lights that are trickling around. It creates this like movement type action that's going on. And it happens more as the camera's either moving in or out because it's trying to adjust, right, to the lights that it's recording. But once the camera like stops, notice there's no more movement, like barely any. Notice there's nothing crawling. But if we're zooming in just one more time, actually I have this slowed down. I should have had two versions. But notice as it moves in, we see all this movement with the lights. And it's all because the lens is obviously trying to pick up the lights, and it's kind of like coming in and out. And it's the same thing it's doing on this truck. And of course, as it's moving in, that's when you have the most activity. And then once the phone stops moving in, you stop having that issue. Now, I'll come back to this and I'll explain. Notice this mist down here. Do you guys see this blue mist? I'll explain what that is at the very end, and I promise you it'll be very interesting. This is light pollution coming from whoever's recording. So all this, obviously, it's like, wow, that's very misty that morning or the night he went missing, but how come it's only like right here, unless it's a ghost forming? But that's not what it is. It's light pollution that's coming onto the monitor. And I'll explain more because I can actually almost see the person holding the phone with something. And I'll show you guys. So anyway, let's get to something more interesting about the Big Brother stuff. But again, I just kind of wanted to explain that because I get a lot of people that send me stuff that like they bring out the exposure in the videos. And I know they're just trying to help. And of course you start getting pareidolia because you start getting these shapes and you start seeing like what looks like people standing by the car. And I've had people send me all sorts of crazy stuff that shows up, but I don't think a lot of that is what's really there, if that makes sense.
Nice enough to let us into their house and overtake their system.
Okay, so let's talk about Big Brother and the cameras, right? The big stuff. So I'm going to play part of SF, what he talks about the camera that's facing across the street from the Proudfoots. Then we're going to play an interview connecting that to where they were on with Smiley's, and they ask him about the locks. And to me, it's very revealing.
And run tests and stuff. And we just had people walking out, and the FBI did this as well too, just so you guys know. But just walk out of the house and see if we could detect it on the monitor at all. And we couldn't. It's that dark in the neighborhood.
Got it. So,
Yep.
I guess then you'd, to be 100% sure, it sounds like, from what you're saying. And I wish, I mean,
okay, so for the full context, because again, I'm only playing a few clips from the Lore Lodge and SF, but he's talking about the camera that's across the street, which is the one, all we have is a screenshot, which is where the garbage truck is passing through. But the lights over here, this is the Proudfoot home. I know we can't make out everything, but we can see the garage. And he's asking him about, what SF's going to say. We did some tests where I think they used that camera, that Ring camera, and I guess they went to the Proudfoot home and they came out, maybe around 3 a.m. or whatever time, during the night, and was doing experiments to see if you could tell if somebody was coming in and out. Now, according to him, he couldn't see. He says that their test showed that you couldn't tell if somebody came out, but yet then Lore Lodge Aiden says, well, hey, can you share, some of your clips with me, on your experiment, just to see, and in my opinion, I said this on Friday, if you're going to do experiments, because clearly you've been paid by the Proudfoots, so you've kind of got already a biased opinion, right? So you need a third party to come in to evaluate your work, right? Because, just going off your word isn't going to cut it, because you need a third party that doesn't have investment on either side, right? If you're going to, want to have your control test and the results, right?
Would you be able to release any of that footage, any of those tests? Just to put people's minds at ease about it, be like, no, really, you can't tell. Like, even if it's just a quick video of somebody walking out of the home.
Listen, I would have to ask, and I'll just be honest, because the way that the people have just trampled over the Prophets, they don't owe anybody any favors, and in this, and they don't care about like winning anybody's. At this point, they truly only, whether people leave or not, they just want Sebastian found, and so I don't think they're gonna give anybody any favors.
I don't know. See, that doesn't make sense. Like, if their test was as they said it was, and you couldn't see anybody coming out the front door in whatever way they walked, I'm assuming they would have to gone to the right, because, with how big these floodlights are, if you went to the left, which would be north up Stafford, I just can't see. Unless there's some really dark areas, this garbage truck doesn't give us the full context, obviously, but I would think if any way you might be able to get past would be going south. But again, they claim that they had lights in the yard, right? So even those, depending on where those are at, if you just any movement in front of those lights would disturb those, and you would notice.
Favors like that, I'll ask, but I wouldn't count on it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. I would just put it this way, that there's a lot of people out there, from what I can tell, the majority of people are looking at them as suspects. Something like that.
And again, it's not just looking at them as suspects. It's just statistic-wise, if there was evidence that he just ran away, then, obviously it's just a runaway. But clearly with the Amber Alert, and people have texted the sheriff, we know that there's been the same same detective that's been on this for, I forget how many months. Somebody can tell me in chat. Clearly. And somebody, allegedly emailed them, and they said, yes, it's a criminal investigation. All that. Amber Alert's still active. Amber Alerts are only for, abductions. We can put two and two together, right? And from there, is it an outside abduction? I still think there's definitely a possibility it could be an outside abduction, just to keep options open. But when you get to that point, obviously you start inward and you work your way out. And if you can't get past the first, if you can't get past Katie and or Chris, there's no reason to move away from them unless you're looking for connections, right?
At the very least, would put people's minds at ease that they're not hiding something here. That, you really, if you look at that footage, you really can't see anybody coming out of that house, whether
thank you, Jamie.
somebody is or not. I think that would probably help a lot of people to maybe get past another reason that they're suspicious.
Yeah, and I get that, but I also see it from their end. But I will say, I know that I saw.
So this is where I played this last time, but I find this very interesting because I'm going to play what he says here, and I'm pretty sure, unless he's trying to be deceitful, but I don't think so, and I'll explain why. 2 reasons why I don't think he went out the front door. And then we're going to listen to an interview about them talking about which way they think the parents, in regards to the parents, on which way they think he went out, and then about the locks.
Interview or two, I think, where with Seth's old PIs, where he had multiple PIs, and they said too that they were aware that the FBI had run these same tests, and in fact, the FBI test wasn't just for that camera, but it was to see if any of the cameras would detect him if he walked a certain route. And in fact, I know when some of the PIs like were watching on when that was happening. So, I mean, I'll ask, but I can't. There's got to be some faith in the fact that FBI, TBI, and I think they've probably sent this footage. I'm sure they've sent this footage to the FBI crime lab, which any agency is allowed to use for enhancement. And I think because it's an Amber Alert, if there was an image of him, I think they would release something. I could be wrong, strategy wise, but I just don't think. I mean, well, let me back that up. From that,
let me back that. This is so good. I know I've already complained about this. I'm not going to really complain, but I just want to point out some things that he says that I find very interesting. But here he is talking about this camera. I'm like 90% sure, unless he's trying to be deceitful. But, this is the conversation that started out with this camera that he's talking about. And he kind of mentions other cameras, but this is the camera we've been talking about. This is where the conversation started with this part.
Camera. Mm-hmm. It's hard because I go back and forth. I don't think that he's caught on that camera at all.
So, in his words, he says, I don't think he was caught on that camera. Now, I guess it could mean that maybe they just didn't see him on that camera and he could have came out. But I think that's pretty telling because I don't think he went out the front door. And then also, he was able to get this footage, and I find it very interesting because I would think they would have taken all this footage, in my opinion. I could be wrong. But there's been other cases where, the important footage, they've gone and just taken the whole thing, just like the one guy that's down the street with the lights. They took his server, even though I know they would have been able to figure out how to extract the files off the thing. Henry Dog, huge supporter, member for 25 months. God bless you, Henry Dog. Don't let this case go cold. I know we're coming up on an anniversary. It's come so fast. Trees Girl, thank you so much for the Canadian dollar 49. God bless you. And Jesse Carter, thank you so much for the support.
But I do.
Yes, huge shout out to my wonderful mods in here. So I thought this was very funny. So I just wanted to show an example from the Idaho case, right? It was so funny because I pulled this up. That's the first thing I see, and this is from, I think, Duty Ron. But I'm sure if you guys have been following my coverage on this, that's a Faro 3D scanner. And anyway, as you can see, that this was probably used, hopefully, in the Idaho 4. I don't see why they wouldn't have used those to scan. But, of course, thought that was interesting that I saw that because, obviously, there's one used in the Sebastian Rogers case. And, in my opinion, when I think of those 3D scanners, I think either vehicle recreation, accident, or some kind of homicide, or some kind of criminal investigation that they need to memorialize. Anyway, the point I'm getting at, this is the house that's next to the Idaho 4 before they tore it down. They had a bulb camera, so you know how you can screw in a bulb. They have cameras, which is pretty neat. And all it takes is a little memory card, that you'd put in your, it's SD memory card. Obviously, you put in your camcorders, whatever, GoPros. And you just put that in this light bulb camera, and you can screw it in. And anyway, instead of just taking that memory card, after the quadruple homicide. Because this camera is going to be huge in the case, in my opinion. Probably going to be one of the biggest because it actually had audio as well. Anyway, yeah, they just took that whole thing. Even though they could have just took the memory card, recorded it, or, duplicated it. But nope, they took that whole entire thing. And this is not the best shot, but I'm sure those that have followed this case know what I'm talking about. But because that camera is actually facing the road, the one way in and one way out. It's a pretty good camera, and it had audio. So, but anyway.
Being on the phone with her prior to?
So now we move to Chris and Katie speaking on Smiley's World. Shout out to her. She had some great interviews. And here's them talking about, they're going to get asked about which way they think he went out and explain why they think this. And I find this very, very interesting.
Yeah, I can answer those questions. Okay. And just so, I've told somebody this before. My wife has popped off to somebody on Facebook. I'm tired of people dragging her through.
Have a short. And the fact that that's the door that he...
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I'm tired of people dragging her through the mud. I'm tired of seeing the stuff that they say about her. Say it to me. I'm okay with it. Say it to me. Leave them alone. Be nice. Be respectful. Be courteous and think about a woman whose heart's broken because her son is...
What was your thing?
Saying that's just totally different from what I've experienced. When you hear people, like I said, that I interviewed, they're like very grateful. Even like I said with Candace, who had been bullied, she went right up to the biggest bully, went on his channel, and I'm not gonna call him like a bully, but he's the one that was, and had like a crazy PI. It was a fake PI. Anyway, and yeah, I mean, she, I mentioned this before. She started going on their channel regularly.
Did you?
Because people see, if you come forward and you're transparent and and you're willing to answer questions and stuff, and you clearly you can tell that you want to, give as much information that you can out. Any theories you may have, they love sharing theories because they may. There's something that obviously the community might think of that they might not have thought of. And anyway, we don't get any of that.
Like have a short. And the fact that that's the door that he always uses or prefers.
We sat down with them in the dining room and
Okay, so I think I had to I'm kind of skipping to the part where she asked about the door. But she basically asked, okay, what door do you think he went out of?
I asked him flat out, I was like, what about fingerprints? Mm-hmm. I mean, can we not take fingerprints? What can we do? Can we check this? Can we check that? And they said no, because, and they explained why fingerprinting would not necessarily be where they would get a hit, was ridges and things like that compromise the fingerprint.
Yeah.
Now, and he goes, despite TV and the movies, that stuff you see is not necessarily true. I was like, okay, well, that's cool. I just, they said, think of anything. Well, we were thinking and asked them, how about this? And how about that? What about this? What about that? And we got shot down.
That's so vague.
Yeah. So, is there or is there not a couch in front of the back door?
So I find this very interesting. Remember in the stock photo, so before the Proudfoots moved in, there's actually two back doors, kind of. They go to this like outer, like covered porch, which also has kind of like a screen door. So there's actually two back door exits that go to a patio type, covered patio, then has a screen door, right? And anyway, we'll see a picture of it here in a second.
No, there is a couch in front of a door.
So when she says that, she either means, and I'll show it here in just a minute, maybe means the one that's facing east.
In front of a door. Okay. I was just wondering, so can he get out the back? Okay, so he can go.
Is there an exit out the back of the house? Yes. That's unobscured from anything? Yes.
Okay, so, but what I'm asking is, How did you know that he went specifically out the front door? What made you think that? What made you think that?
We presume that he left out the front door. We never know 100%, obviously, but we presume based off of process of elimination.
And this is huge, what they say.
Going over it with law enforcement, going over the house, where things are, how things are, Sebastian's routine, and the fact that that's the door that he always uses or prefers to use, because I won't say 100% of the time he does come in with.
So his bedroom, if you're not familiar with the house, his bedroom, so each bedroom's almost in a corner of the house, except for the garage, I think. But you have, and then you have one upstairs. What's it? 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom? But most of the bedrooms they're each one's on a corner of the house, if that makes sense. And his is by the front door. If you were to go in, it'd be to the right. The way we're looking, it'd be to the left. His bedroom's right here by the front door. Remember, his shoes would have probably been somewhere around here, but he didn't take those. And it's got the keypad lock, which on the outside, so he wouldn't need a key, and it would just automatically lock after he goes out the door, right? But we have a camera looking at that front door.
Me through another door, but that's the door Sebastian prominently uses.
And now this is what I was talking about, the back door. We talked about this before. Now, as you can see how they have this couch, because there's like a fireplace setup type thing where you know, so either they have their couch up against, which I don't think maybe they do, I don't know. But then if you just go left, there's like a little extra room where there's another door that literally leads out to this back porch that's covered. So there's 2 of them, but they both have the same setup. It's got the deadbolt lock, right? It's not the keypad one. So, and right here, they literally say, in my opinion, the biggest clue.
The one that if he were going to sneak out of the house or leave the house for whatever reason, that's the most reasonable door that he would have left out of. Any of the others would have made noise or not been.
Or would not have been locked.
Or would not have been locked. So that tells me, in my opinion, 100%, all these deadbolts were locked. So that leaves only 2 exits he could have gone out. One, well, technically the garage door as well, but then there's a door next to the garage, 2 garage doors. There's no way he could have gone out without it being seen, because you have the floodlights above the garage. Even if he came out that door to the side of it, he had been right in front of that spotlight. So now if you go back and you add in with what allegedly SF says, that they don't think they saw him on that camera facing the front, what does that tell you when you deduce everything? He doesn't have keys, so he can't lock this as he comes out. He went out the back, but he didn't go out by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Any of the others would have made noise or not been.
Or would not have been locked.
Mm-hmm.
So the back door would not lock
from the outside like the front. No, you'd have to have the key.
So I'm not going to describe every door lock in our house to y'all personally. That's a safety thing.
Yeah, I understand that. Don't do that.
Yeah, but what I can say is there's only 2 doors in the house that he could have gone out.
And so he's talking about the front door, and then obviously the garage door. You have the garage doors, for the cars. Obviously, there's no way he's coming out of those. And then a door that's to the side of that, but it's right next to the floodlight, and we'll look at it again.
Where he could have locked
from the outside.
On his own or from the outside. And the one, he wouldn't have gone out because of how much noise it makes.
Yeah.
Everybody would have, and plus it would have been seen on camera. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I mean, it would have been seen on camera. So by suspicion or reasonable elimination of all these doors, it's front door.
Okay.
And I don't know what, and so he says he'd be caught on the camera that's facing the
There's
the
no,
north.
and there was no windows unlocked or anything like that that y'all can tell or could tell. I'm sure they looked at all that.
Yeah, with
Yes,
the
yeah,
screens intact and things like that. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Nothing exterior of the building of our house has been altered. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, and that's why it was like, huh? Not only that, but for him to go out the window, so to speak, he would have landed in the flower bed and barefooted. Yeah, we'd have heard something because he had landed on it and screamed.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. So let me get these people. I know they're itching for some.
So, one more time. The door to the north, because we're facing east. Front door would be here. Obviously, it came out the garage or the garage door, just the door that locks. Obviously, is right next to it. I mean, I don't know how you'd be able to get out. And I think even they say it, he would have been caught on camera because I think these floodlights, he would have been seen. So, but according to SF, they didn't see him go out the front, which I believe him. I think it's probably the only true thing he's probably said, or few. So again, the argument is, how did he get out the back door, and lock it? And then from there, you got to remember that's the first obstacle, right? That's just the first obstacle for him just to get out one of these doors, right? Which really, if he didn't have the keys, he'd be only be able to go out the front, right? And then from there, we've got, even though I only have 3 cameras, I promise you just about every other house has some kind of camera. I've seen the addresses of the ones that have cameras. Now, again, I don't know which way they point or anything. I know a few more of which way they point. But we're talking just about every other house has cameras, right? That point in one direction or another. Some are going to be better than others. But even if he got out on his own, without being caught on the initial camera here, then you've got the camera that's on Stafford. I think he could only go up through the backyard. But again, if he goes south, he's going to be caught on the camera here, which I do think, coincidentally is the, when he went out, if they went out the back, is where all these lights are coming from. But let's just say somehow he snuck out and went out the top. Okay, I think I'll zoom in here. 1 second. I thought this was very interesting. So most of these backyards, they have fences, but they do have like these little alleyways, between Stafford and Kill. And I'm going to show a top view here in just a second. He would be able to go up north a little bit, because obviously if he went south by himself, if this was an abduction, obviously we know it's some kind of abduction. But let's just say in theory he tried to wander off. But if he went up, and he would be able to get through some of these yards because they have this little alleyway, because most of them got these square fences, and you can kind of go in between these homes, but you can only go so far. And coincidentally, if he were to go up north, he wouldn't be able to cut through all the way, because at the top, just wait for it to pop up here. Keep in mind, this is the camera here, which is the very good night mode camera that captures, obviously, it makes it look like it's daytime. That's the one that's right here. Anyway, so he could technically go up. But right here, so these people have pools at the top. So there's just no way, because they have it fenced off. So there's no more cutting through the homes from there, because obviously because of the pools. Of course, the pools have been checked. He's got 1 or 2 directions. If he cuts right, well, he's coming out right where the Kellen camera is, that is the nighttime mode camera that clearly is an amazing camera. So, and then again, there's so many other cameras that we just don't know exactly which way they're pointing, but they're there, right? So there's no way this kid wasn't seen on one of these cameras, just kind of wandering around without doing some kind of like, reconnaissance, days before he decided to allegedly run away. But of course, there would have been a scent, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a dog expert, but I think with the minimal traffic out there, you would think, it's not like an apartment complex where there's a bunch of different scents. It's so I think, if he just wandered off, that they would have clearly had picked up his scent. I could be wrong, but I think so. I really do. There's some things that people have mentioned about some of the behavior and things that have been going on in this case, especially since Green Hoodie. And I don't think, again, I know Green Hoodie is still controversial, but I do think this case is going to break. And that's why I say Big Brother, cameras, obviously surveillance, technology. Big Brother is going to be a big big part in this case, right? Obviously, we just don't have all the context because obviously we don't have all the footage from the camera with the lights. We just have a few clips that are third, fourth generation that lost a lot of quality. And then I know that there was other cameras near that camera that probably were confiscated. I don't know 100%, but I definitely have not seen SF talk about that particular camera. So I think that camera was probably confiscated too, because I think it caught more than just, yeah. Okay. So of course here they are in the backyard. Why would they be in the backyard? There would have to be something for them. Again, I know it's really dark. I don't know why it's dark right there. Oh, I think I'm zooming in, but I mean, you got to think, for them to bring in that device, this 3D scanner in the backyard. I mean, and again, I've talked about this before. Just imagining how much information is stored on one of these devices. We're talking, God knows how many terabytes of info, because you're just scanning a whole 3D area, and obviously you scan a 3D area and then you move forward, you scan more of it, and you're basically memorializing the crime scene that you could go back, or potential crime scene, whatever. I think there's clearly, this is no coincidence that they did this, and hopefully someday down the road we'll get to see why they did this, right? And I think it will be connected to the lights. That's just my opinion, of course. Let's see. I agree this case is going to break. It is. It's just a matter of time. All right, now I want to talk about the Uber car, and I also, because I had some people, because I know some people still don't trust SFS about the pictures, and they thought they had spotted some differences between the two pictures. And, of course, if there's anything that I can debunk of SS, and I've mentioned a million times, I'm going to be the first person to debunk him. But these cars are real. In my opinion, I've still not seen anything to not think they are. Now, there's something that I would listen to this a bunch of times, and there's some things that don't add up. Obviously, there's tons of stuff that doesn't add up, but anyway, I'm going to point these out. I promise you this will be very interesting. And then I'll talk about the 3 a.m. car versus the Uber car. I know some people have sent me things thinking that the garbage can is not there in one shot, and in the 3 a.m. it's there, or vice versa.
The Uber, the only reason that
but I will show you guys that here in just a minute. Again, we've got 1,500 people in here. Thank you guys so much. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. God bless. If by chance, I don't ask for it much, but if by chance you send like a PayPal or Venmo, if you could let my mods know, because sometimes I don't have the best service, so and I hate not to shout people out when I can. So here is SF talking about the 3 a.m. Uber car, which we played on Friday, but there's a couple of details that I kind of didn't pay attention to until recently.
So the Uber clearly, well, there's a couple of reasons to show that. One, it's been known about the Uber was there for a long time, and I think
no way.
Even the gentleman who got the Uber to go to the airport had put it on Facebook in the first day or two that he's like, oh, I had an Uber come at 3:30 in the morning, so that had been known.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
I was
a neighbor.
Not a neighbor. It was somebody in the neighborhood. It was somebody on Kellen. So I wasn't afraid to put that out. However, the other vehicle, which I can listen. I know nobody wants to take my word for it, but I can promise you, the car is not foreign to the neighborhood. It's known and
okay. Wait, hold on. Sorry, I was reading something, so I want to make sure because it comes up really fast. Well, there's a couple of things that I'm going to mention. Let me just answer this. Allison, thank you so much for the $10. Wait a minute. SF said on the lore that they didn't have a security system. Yeah, like in the house. I know that's been very debated. CP didn't want to say that publicly, though, for KP safety, since now their house is covered with security in and out, which, yeah, I think I've heard. So, yeah, was there security before that? I think, yeah, he said that there wasn't. Yeah. Again, yeah, was there or wasn't there? Okay, anyway, make sure it wasn't on this first part.
Book in the first day or two that he's like, oh, I had an Uber come at 3:30 in the morning. So that had been known. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't
a neighbor.
Not a neighbor. It was somebody in the neighborhood. It was somebody on Kellen. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't afraid to put that out. However, the other vehicle, which I can listen. I know nobody wants to take my word for it, but I can promise you, the car is not foreign to the neighborhood. It's known and.
So if it's known, you would think someone would have came forward just like the Uber, right? Because what he says is true. They were that person did say, "Hey, yeah, I had like Uber come," and I think someone just mixed it up, said it was like 5:30, but it was 3:30. But of course, everything else that they said was true. Now this is what he says right here. Very interesting.
Honestly, this person probably.
Oh, sorry.
They are not. That's not known. If that person, I know people would try to find out who that is and whatnot, and they go after them. And this person, quite honestly, this person probably has no idea that people are trying to figure out.
Wait, so they have no idea that they're looking for this car, but yet he supposedly found who this driver is? You don't think SF would have said, hey, by the way, you're, since your car was caught at 3 a.m. and there, people are looking for this 3 a.m. car, just, kind of heads up, just in case, if your car ever does get discovered, I thought it, might pass that on to you, since he did figure out who this is, right? Wouldn't you have let this person know and maybe, allow him to say, to come forward and say, hey, yeah, this is what I was driving. This is what I was doing. That makes no sense, right? And then, of course, then when you add on what he's going to say right after this, then it just is absolutely nuts.
Part of that is and stuff.
But let me know what you think in the chat. Wouldn't you, like, if that was true, wouldn't you have, because he claims that he found this driver, you would have let this person know, hey, by the way, you know, right now you could be like one of the biggest things that people are searching for, and, you know, just give you a little heads up, buddy. You know, maybe you want to talk about it or come forward or whatever, you know, but at least warn him, you know.
They are not, that's not, you know, if that person, I know people would try to find out who that is and whatnot, and they go after them. And this person, quite honestly, this person probably has no idea that, you know, people are trying to figure out what part of that is and stuff.
Okay, now this is how I know this is bullshit. And again, I'm trying not to get mad because I try to move on from this guy because he gets me upset. But okay, now listen. He just said that this guy has no idea, right? That they're looking for him, right? Now let's listen to what he claims this person is, right? The best that we can kind of understand, right? And then let's go back to this guy having no idea, and if that makes sense. Listen to this.
It has nothing to do with anything. Unfortunately, keep in mind, we want to find the clue. So it's disappointing to us as well when, you know, when none of these things are connecting, you know.
So you say that this vehicle is not foreign to the neighborhood. Are you then saying that the vehicle is commonly in the neighborhood but is not owned by someone in the neighborhood?
That'd be fair to say.
So it's a person that's commonly known to the neighborhood, right? But let's go back to his comment. This guy has no idea people are looking for him, but yet this is a guy that's a regular that comes up, right? Does that make sense? If this guy is supposedly a regular, an Uber driver, or, you know, because that's, you know, we're going to go through all the things he claims this person is. You know, he starts with Uber driver and Amazon driver. I don't know what Amazon driver is driving around at, you know, past midnight. I don't know what their curfew is. I mean, it won't surprise me eventually if we have 24-hour service with Amazon. But anyway, I digress. You would think if this guy is known to the neighborhood and wherever he's going to consistently a couple times a week or whatever, that he would probably get wind of, hey, you know, you're that car that was there at 3 a.m. You realize that, you know, people have been looking for you, right?
That'd be fair to say.
Okay,
Yeah.
is this?
It's, you know, think of it like.
Do you know who the owner?
Think of
You
it
know
that-
who the owner of the vehicle is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were saying something. I don't want to cut you off.
Think of it as like, you know, there's daily, you know, like people that come in Ubers and stuff like that. Or
Everybody in this neighborhood, well, not everybody, but a lot of people in this neighborhood knows what's going on, right? And they're talking, right? Obviously, this is a huge case, right? So I guarantee if this was somebody that was kind of, you know, Uber driver, well, again, he goes through all these different things or we'll show. But again, how would he not know that we're allegedly, you know, that we're looking for this guy?
you know, Amazon deliveries or whatever it may be. But you know, you have this, you have the same type of, you know, person for the neighborhood, you know, so it's a known person, but not necessarily a resident.
So is this?
So that just makes no sense because if it's a known person, you would think word would get out like, hey, man, we've heard that there's this like car at like 3 a.m. and then be like, you know, aren't you the guy that kind of drives around at 3 a.m. a couple times a week? According to SF is what he makes it sound like.
Is this somebody with any known connection to the Proudfoot family?
No.
Okay. So not a family member, not a friend. All right. So I guess
no.
that's.
Yeah.
Is this
I mean,
somebody?
keep in mind, there's a construction site next door. There's a lot of work going on. And I know that it's a weird time of morning, but there's still.
I know it's a weird type of morning. There's a construction site over there.
You know, things that there's still, you know, workers and whatnot. It's not a work.
And I think he's starting to think like, oh, well, that sounds dumb as hell because what the hell is a construction worker doing at 3 a.m. when they're not going to start work until 6:30, 7 a.m.?
Worker from the construction area. It's
I know we kind of went over this before, but I mean, clear this guy.
I don't want to say. It's hard to say. It's a person that is in that neighborhood, in and out, several times a week, and it's a known person, and it's there's nothing, absolutely zero to it whatsoever. Nefarious.
But yet this guy has no idea that we're looking for him, right? That makes no sense. That makes no sense. If this is a known person, again, like I said, if it isn't like an Uber and Amazon delivery, if it's like a boyfriend, because remember one time he talked about like this clip, allegedly it was like a boyfriend or something dropping off girlfriend, or the girlfriend dropping off boyfriend, something like that. Nonsense. And again, if that was true, you would think, of course, people talk. People are talking about this. Of course, people are, and how would he not learn that, oh, shit, they're looking for my car? That makes no sense. Yeah, he is. He is talking in circles. And I do wonder. Yeah, I don't know. He starts with Uber, some kind of Uber, Amazon, taxi driver type thing, goes to construction worker. Then it's kind of like a known person, like a friend. Again, so you got all these. Makes no sense. Maybe it's the paper delivery person. I mean, I hate to laugh, but yeah. Oh, God. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting for him to mention that. Like, well, I don't think this guy knows that we're looking for him, or that they're looking for him. But again, if you had found him, I'm pretty sure you would have told him. If not, if he's what you're saying he is, he would have to have known that, his car's captured at 3 a.m. and people are looking into it, right? But and then you took your time to block this out, which makes zero damn sense at all. And then, hey, what do you know? It's at around 3 a.m. So I got a couple more things. I promise I'm going to show you something that's very interesting. What's weird? I saw something come up, but I can't pop it up. Thank you, Tree Squirrel. I don't know if that popped up twice, but thank you so much for the support. That means the world. Yeah, he does. Yeah. Okay. One thing, because again, I've had people, think that this car was like faked, like he tried to deceive people, and I told you, like I looked at a bunch of different things, like he didn't Photoshop this car in. So, and just to show you that's on the same day, there's actually something very interesting, and I can see where people had been kind of mistaken. So, if you look, and it depends on if you're looking at the Uber vehicle or the mysterious vehicle, because of one, obviously, if you're looking at a 3M vehicle, it's got lights on the road, so it's illuminating different things, right? Where when you're looking at the Uber driver, you don't have the street illuminated, and it almost looks like the garbage can is like missing. But here's me overlaying it 1-to-1. So what you're seeing is literally everything lined up. And what you could tell is, here's the garbage. So the mailbox right here, that's the mailbox across the street. Then you have the garbage can, which is on our side for this home right here. And he actually even has, and I can't tell, it's either what looks like to be like some kind of cardboard box on it, maybe some extra trash, or that the lid is like, sometimes you fill your garbage can up a little too much, and so you have the lid open up, right? So I don't know if it's just kind of the back of the lid opened up. To me, it looks more like a box or something similar to it on top of the garbage can. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And then next to it is the mailbox as well on this side. Now watch as I fade them. There's no difference. You still have that box. But see how the mailbox almost disappears? And it almost makes, and what's interesting is almost makes looks like this garbage can is now across the street. It's really weird. It kind of plays mind tricks on you when you're looking at them. But no, they're all there. The mailbox is still there. It's just kind of more darker because now obviously the light, because we don't have the light from the 3 a.m. vehicle. And then on top of that, when we look at the garbage truck that comes, a few hours later, you'll notice the garbage can is now slightly moved over a little bit, and it doesn't have that thing on top of it. And that'd just be way too much to go through if you were gonna somehow, manufacture and stuff. But as you can see, the garbage can is now moved a little bit away from the mailbox as if it's been handled, and we can't see the box, or I don't know if it's the lid that was kind of facing up a little bit. And then you can kind of see the mailbox across the street. But I do get it because I had a lot of people send that to me like, no, this looks fake, or a different time because garbage can is not there, it's across the street or something like that. And no, it's just all because one photo, obviously, car's on the street, so it's illuminating different items. And then when you switch to the Uber car, you got different lighting. So again, it's just, just how things are getting illuminated and appearing and disappearing. And then here's me overlaying the Uber vehicle, and you can see that the car is exactly in the same place. All the same lights are on. Nothing is different, except you'll have a vehicle that appears. But I have everything lined up. That car is parked in the same exact spot. I'll back it up here, but again, like I said, if SF put something out was fake, I would have been on him. But I'm telling you, until that 3 a.m. car is cleared, that is my goal. But here is me overlaying the two 1-to-1. You can see the car doesn't move. All the same lights are on. And so, anyway, I hope that helps. Hey, Pocahontas, good to see you, sweetheart. Thank you so much, Donna. Again, all I'm trying to do is give context and the experience that I have in editing, and just to give you guys the best information, because I get sent so much stuff, and I know like 99% of people are trying to like help me, give me clues, tips, whatever, but I think a lot of them are just unfortunately stuff that's been like, well, I've got it saved for the end, so maybe I'll expand on that at the end. DJ Pauly says, it's funny how CP says we would have heard him go out the window, right? And we would have heard a noise. Yes, good catch, DJ. Yep. Yeah, in that interview where they're talking about the lights, he says, well, we would have heard noise if he opened up the door. And yeah, very, very strange. So, we had Coffee Dapper on Wednesday, and it was very, obviously it was very humbling and honoring to have someone with her background on. And so, we talked about how, he allegedly left with no shoe, no coat, no phone. I think if he was running away, he would have took his phone, he would have tried to call his dad, whatever. Yet he takes this keychain flashlight, which to me, I'm still like, I still have trouble knowing, like, how did they know so quickly with something that's so small that was missing, right? I don't know. To me, this seems more, I don't know. I could be overlooking this, but, I think, people have seen it. I mean, they're tiny, they're tiny little flashlights. Like, how'd they know out of all the things, like, that was missing? Unless his room's, like, immaculate, right? And it just, he doesn't have many things. Which is kind of sad to think about. But then she talks about the shoes. And I hate to go down this route, but, obviously you have to kind of look at all angles. But she talked about, well, sadly, if it was foul play, which I really hope it isn't, why would you worry about the boots or shoes? That's something that they don't worry about, And it got me thinking, and there's a couple cases, but I'm just going to bring up one for now. But obviously cases that I worked on, and that's the Dylan Round case. It was just a 19-year-old kid with a bright future, and this piece of garbage just snapped and sadly killed Dylan. And, of course, he buried his body not very far away. But you know what he took off? He took off the shoes, the boots, and tossed them. And
To the house next door to us through their
so I just wanted to put that. I hope that's not the case.
backyard. And that
But I just wanted to bring up that example because I thought that was a very interesting, perspective. Not that, of course, we pray that's not the outcome and, somewhere he's being held up somewhere. But again, you do have to weigh all look at all options, and that does kind of make sense. And I agree 100% with that. That is exactly as what I've said. I think there is no coincidence that is the one thing he allegedly had. Is because and there's look at that back-to-back comments exactly. Yep, 100%. Yep, that was their. I think that was kind of like their thing of like, oh well, if they catch one of our flashlights, he'll have one, and they can say, oh well, he happened to take one with him. So, and that's why I think you don't really ever see the flashlights moving in tandem together. You like see one move, and then another one move, and then one will move, and then one will kind of flash for a minute. And I think that's because they didn't ever want to move in tandem, because I think they really only wanted one light to be seen at a time to make it look like maybe it was just one person, if that makes sense. Governor Pincus says, thank you for all you do, Chris. God bless you guys. But again, I mean, if you look at the totality, and so going with Big Brother, again, so keep in mind, they took this camera, right, which is where the car is at. They took this camera, which obviously faces the common area in the backyard, right? If you know, you know. I don't think that's a coincidence. Again, I think they could have easily have just taken the taken recordings off the guy's server. But I think they took that whole system on purpose, because that probably has the most, in my opinion, probably some of the most damning evidence, or just some of the bigger evidence. I should say some of the bigger evidence, possibly, hopefully. And then I know that there's another camera. I'm not going to show exactly where, but I know there's another camera that faces close to around this area. And I haven't seen SF. I've never heard him talk about getting that camera or mention it. And I think that camera was taken as well, like everything. I could be wrong. I'm speculating on that one. But the fact that we haven't heard anything about that from SF makes me think that they probably took that one as well, because I think that one also had some stuff on it. And again, just totality of everything there. But I'm going to show you guys. So again, I get all these tips with people seeing stuff in the cameras. So I want to show you guys why it can be an issue of cranking up the brightness and exposure. Because I know that can help in some situations, but when we have a recording such as this, it's kind of a unique situation. It's a lot tougher, and I'll explain why. And I promise you're going to see something you may not have probably ever seen before. And it's been there the entire time. So this is video 1. I'm going to play it once, and then I'm going to crank up the brightness. So this is video 1. It's 19 seconds. This is the one. This is the very first video, just before the Nick Barris video. And so subject 1 walking towards between the two homes, and then kind of stops around here. I know you probably can't see it right now. I'm not really trying to show the light right now, so that's not the important thing. Do I get on play? Slow down. Oh, here we go. Okay. I think I just slowed it down a little too much. Okay. So now I replay the video. Now what I did is I just turned up the exposure or brightness, kind of same thing. Slightly different, but more or less the same thing. Now watch what happens when I just crank up the brightness. Well, it's exposure. Notice what you're going to see here in a minute. Man, I wish I would have turned... I know I have it faster later, but I promise you, you're going to start to see... And all I'm doing is just turning up the exposure. Some of you, it may be a little bit harder to see. Some of you, let me see if I can see it on my phone. Oh, yeah, you can see it. Oh, yeah. Do you guys see this mist that's starting to show up here? And then do you see these like almost two pillars right here? Two pillars, and we have like this mist that is showing up. Oh, thank you so much, girl mom. God bless you. So here's the issue, and I'll explain what this is and why. I know a lot of people send me stuff that where they've turned up the brightness and zoomed in on things, and they got all these weird different like pixels and stuff that almost look like a person. And I know they're just trying to help. But the issue is we've got lighting coming from two different sources, which is a big issue. So can you guys see that pretty good? And I'm going to show you something that's really going to kind of blow your mind. As it gets brighter, notice this is dark right here, but notice now it's starting to like kind of filter in up here. But most of it's down here. But you'll notice it's really black here. Now I do the same thing with the car. So here's it without the exposure turned on. So we got the car and the person zooms in. Now, what I think is going on, now you're going to start to see the pillars come in again as I turn up the brightness. What I think is going on is you got to remember, because it's a recording of a recording, right? That if anybody's got a monitor screen, computer screen right now, if you got light above you, or maybe you got a window to your right next to your monitor, and let's say it's kind of like midday or something, so you've got light kind of filtering in like on a corner. I'm sure everybody has experienced, light on your screen from, if you had like your TV near a window and it's day, and all of a sudden you've got, obviously, you got that reflection. Obviously, that's really annoying because you can't see a reflection. Hello. So what's going on is I think it's the same thing, and I think what we're seeing is, and I wish I had this playing a little bit faster, but you'll notice, I think either it's somebody doing this, or they have a selfie stick, because you can almost looks like you can kind of see like the sticks, right? Either way, you can tell that you've got light pollution coming in, not from the video itself, but you got it from the person that's recording whatever they're recording, recording the video from the room. And so now you've got all this light pollution that's coming in. And now all this stuff that I'm brightening up down here, that's not part of the video. All of that is coming from, a secondary source that's not in the video. So let me pause that, right? So think of all of that I've exposed, and then we go back to Remember all the fog that I was telling you about? Same thing. There it is. But yeah, you can almost see the rectangle where, in my opinion, it's almost like where the phone is at. And notice how black it is right there, because they're now casting that shadow from whatever light is coming. So now we've got all this. Really, this is light pollution coming from an outside source. So now if you start turning up your pixels and your brightness and stuff, you're getting pixels that are now showing up that might not be part of the actual video, right? And so I've been seeing a lot of that. And I know people are trying to help and like trying to, brighten it up. But unfortunately, it's not helping because, I could tell that like it's just being overexposed and we're getting pareidolia going on. And it just sucks because we don't have the original video, right? So I hope that makes sense, right? And again, I get a lot of people that send me some wild stuff. And sometimes it does. It looks like there's like a person or something, but it's because, when you start overexposing the pixels, and maybe, especially if you're now like recording what I'm showing, then you're going to now create even more light pollution that could cause even more different pixels than when you play with it on your phone. And so, because I've seen some stuff that I'm like, how in the hell did this get on there? Like, this is weird. Like, and the only thing I can think of is if they're like recording it, like watching my stream and then like taking a screenshot, or I think like taking a screenshot. And then of course now, well, they've got light pollution unless they're like in a pitch dark room, then you're going to create more reflection. And then if you start turning up whatever you just screenshot, you're going to start now creating pixels that are coming from whatever light source that you've got. And so anyway, I digress. I know people are trying to help me, but I'm just trying to say be very careful, because I'm seeing people like look at stuff that's supposed to be like, people buy cars and stuff. And I'm like, you guys just know that I've looked at this stuff, not to say it, there's stuff I couldn't miss, and not that I couldn't enhance some more stuff, but there's not a lot we can do with this. When it comes to like overexposing, because really we've got outside influence going on, if that makes sense. So yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, it more or less it is. Right, Veronica? Yeah. So the story is they saw his bedroom light on, and then I forget what time they said, like 9. Oh God, I think she even had like a specific time, like 9:26 or 9:30, somewhere in there. I have a previous live where we go over the timeline from the lady that was that was kind of watching her video from across the street. And yeah, his light was on, and then it went out at like 9:20 or something. And then she said at like around 11 or midnight, I don't know if it's kitchen dining room light went out. Yeah. Yeah, Bugsy. Yeah, I can't tell if it's like someone doing this, or if maybe they got, yeah. But yeah, it's clearly, yeah, when you look at it, especially when you play it a little bit faster. Maybe if you can actually kind of see them moving. I wish I had it playing faster, but you can see them like moving it around. Like, yeah, you can see it like that. Or I don't know. It's weird. This part's kind of interesting, but yeah, this could just be a wrist or a hand and something like that. Yeah. If you look at the original Nick Barris, when you can see movement in the left corner when the light turns on in the middle of that light source. I mean, I have all the videos. Oof. We're kind of going a little bit overtime, guys. So again, the madness of me building live shows. Nick Barris, Nick Barris, Nick Barris, Nick Barris. Nick Barris, there you are. So, we have Nick Barris. Oh, hold on. We have the floodlight. Oh, come on. I was going to zoom it in. Right there. Boop. So we have subject 1 showing up. We have subject 2. That's the truck. Remember, that's the truck. That's the floodlights there. Subject 2's coming. Remember, we've got all this lighting. And again, this is light pollution as well. I think this is light pollution from Nick Barris when he did the recording. Because again, if I brighten this up, you've got light pollution, and it tends to be, kind of on the corners, because depending on where you're recording. So you have the truck, obviously, kind of coming in and out. I don't see anything to the left. The left of the floodlights? Is that what you're trying to say? I don't know. Let me know. I can't remember who had that. It was Girl Mom. Let me know, Girl Mom, in the chat. I have that one. The last thing I'll show you guys. Let's see. But this one I find interesting. Let me take negative off for a minute. This one's very interesting. This is the last video. So remember, this is after the car. And we see this person just jetting back. And right at the end, I know I pointed this out, but right at the very end, we have this guy right here. And what's so interesting, and that is clearly one of the flashlights, and this is after somebody's running back to the home, in my opinion. We have what I call the scout, and we have this other floodlight to the other house, right? And remember where the car is at? So if we go back to the car, and then I'll try to answer. Look at the distance. Look at the distance, right? Of scout, what I call the scout. Look at the difference between the little floodlight here and the light. And this is when the car is turning on. What are the odds? Like, look at the difference. And then we go to this one. And once again, well, I'll zoom it in right here. Look at the distance from that. Let me, you know what? Let me do this. Oh, the police are coming for me. Oh my God, look at that. It's like the same distance. Let me line them up. Oh my God, that's like fucking exactly. Holy shit. Oh, I gotta turn it down just a tad right there. Oh, it's like so, oh my God, like, look at that. And that's the worst quality one, but look at the light. This is after the person has ran off, right? You have this light that just kind of pops up and then the video ends, so we don't know what happens. But that little piece, because obviously this is the only video that it's not great quality, but we know this is floodlights here. That's floodlights there from the other home on the right. And look at that. Look at the difference. And that's the one where it's standing waiting by the car. Look at the same. I mean, it is like in the same spot almost. And I still think, yeah, it is. So whatever happened, like like I said, I call it the scout. There's somebody that's watching this car. Subject 1 comes, and then I swear stops there, and then subject 2 that's doing like the transporting or whatever, and then you have a third person with the vehicle. Then they put the kid in the car leaves, then subject 2, or maybe not, the car doesn't leave yet, but subject 2 runs back, and then subject 1, who's the scout, then gets in the car. I don't know, because we still don't have, but that is crazy. Anyway, sorry girls, I got distracted. Was it girl? Was it girl mom? Yeah. But to me, what are the odds, right? That is the flashlight. That is one of the flashlights. And that spacing is just like spot on. That is crazy. Where'd girl mom? Circular light source appears in the bottom corner. I need to know, like, top left, right. Could you say like top left, right hand, top left, top right, or bottom left, bottom right? If you could let me know, girl mom, and I'll look at it. I need to know which corner we're looking at. I'm not sure but yeah. And Barris, I don't see anything else in his video. You have the truck. Like I said, that's the outline of the truck. That's the floodlights. And then you have subject 1 that starts out. I don't know. I mean, of course, you got some light pollution that kind of filters in and out. But that's, you got to make sure you see something that's solid like these. I don't know. Maybe you're seeing this. That's kind of, but that, like I said, that's the truck. Again, you got to remember everything's got to be tilted because we're not really looking at this right side up. We're really that would be right side up. That would be more of an accurate depiction. Janae, is it Janae Darkus? I hope I said that right. I appreciate all you do for the missing, Chris. Thank you so much. God bless you. That is a huge donation, and thank you so much. Oh, Joanne, we've talked about the floodlight thing, sweetie. We've gone over that. It's not. There's no way that it would be people. It'd be way too big. I mean, I'm just here to give you my experience on video editing and all that, but I'm telling you, one, this video is not even upright because it's at an angle. So if you thought these were people, they're not even standing upright because you would have to turn it about, 20 degrees. How many degrees do I got to turn it? Oh, just about 20. No. I got to turn it. Shit, I need to turn it about 30 degrees. So, again, yeah, you got to think there would be giants. And I think, no. Bottom left-hand corner in the middle. Yeah, I think you're looking at the truck. It's just being, it's this part being illuminated. If you're new to my channel, I have some other videos where I don't think I have it in this one. But you're just basically looking at this, like the truck of the hood. And it's because the lights are coming in and out because someone's recording, right? Just like we've talked about earlier, because we don't have the original video and someone's recording it, the lights are like coming in and out. It makes it look like there's movement, right? And that's all it is. So any of this right here is just the hood of the truck. Like that's the window right there. That's the only thing I can think of that you're mentioning. Because you have the floodlights and then these two lights, and that's it. But I could see where, especially if you're kind of somebody that's newer to the case, you would see that and go like, oh, what the hell is that? But I have videos where I've overlaid that to give you an idea where that's at. Anyway, Pincho's a good channel to check out if you're more newer to the lights to figure out where they're at. But hopefully I gave a good little explanation of that. Again, I just want to give people, my opinion on stuff. You take with it what you will. But again, when it comes to the lights and people like sending me, a bunch of stuff that's been illuminated, I think they got to remember that light pollution has been kind of contaminated when it comes to this particular video anyway. I'd have to look. I don't know, because that's I'll have to see. You really can't do much because, like I said, just what I've kind of gone through this entire show is you can't really brighten it up much more without like contaminating what you're gonna see, right? Again, that's just my opinion to you guys, just to keep in mind, when seeing different stuff. I wish I could show an example of what I had. But anyway, I just realized we've gone 2 hours, and I usually just try to keep this an hour and a half. But I thought I would kind of chat a little bit more than I usually do. Thank you to my wonderful mods, D, Sensei, Copper Horse. We may have another one coming in to help us as well. And my Patreons and members, I've got some stuff for the Delphi. Oh, I just want to say, has anybody been watching, before everybody goes, has anybody been watching the Blake Lively versus the Justin Baldoni case? Has anybody been watching that? Like, kind of keeping up with that? Hey, Joy, good to see you. Thank you so much for what you've done in the past. Joy sent in footage for me. Good to see you, Leslie and Billy. Hope you're doing well. God bless you. Thank you, BB. Unfortunately, yeah, anybody else watching that? Because in my opinion, this may be the next Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp. If it happens, it's going to be much worse, in my opinion. I don't know. I could see it getting much worse because it's going to involve Ryan Reynolds. I don't know if it'll involve Taylor Swift, but Ryan Reynolds, who is a big character, who I'm a huge fan of, but right now what's coming out doesn't look good on him at all. And I'm really bummed because I love Ryan Reynolds. And anyway, anybody that's familiar with that case, keep an eye out because I think it's going to turn into the next Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp. Unless Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds like get their head on straight and actually just go behind the scenes and like squash it and pay this guy, quite a few million for what they were trying to do to him. But anyway, if not, it's going to turn into the next Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp, and I promise you, it's going to be crazy because it's going to involve Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get the Johnny Depp type court, with the a mega pint. And the Amber Heard stories that made no sense. But I don't know. We'll have to see. But I was just curious if anybody's following that, because you got to need a little levity from this case, because obviously it's it can be very toxic, and anyway, it's good to kind of measle around a little bit to other cases. But I was just wondering if maybe I could do, if people are interested in it, maybe for like the Patreons and members, maybe cover a little bit of it. Because her dragon's right. Yeah, so there's people watching it. Yeah. If you haven't, keep an eye out. It's pretty wild. It's like I said, it could turn into the Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp Part 2, just with new A-listers. And yeah, so all right, guys. Throw a little couple pets in before we go. Puppy, I know I got some new ones. Thank you to those that donated, and of course my members and patrons. Anyway, just make sure I didn't get anything. But anyway, thank you to my wonderful mods. There's Miss Millie. There's Miss Millie watching me. That's pretty cool. One of my mods. There's Max. Some of them I don't have names for, unfortunately, but God, it's beautiful cats. I'm a huge cat lover. Let me make this a little bigger. That's Harry. I think that's Harry or Leo. One's Harry, one's Leo. I know. And then we got, is that Grendel? Miss Fifi wanting a belly rub. We got Daisy. Oops, I keep, there's a little Daisy. Another Daisy. And we got Chloe. Oh, I love those eyes. That's a beautiful coat. Caddy and Harry. We got Bella. I love black cats, black and white cats. Great colors. Baby Simba. That's a cute name. Oh, then we got another Baby Simba. Maybe that's Baby Simba, and the other one's got a different name. And then we got Baby Moo, which that's a pet raccoon. So cute. Chris, maybe the question is, why would they record over recording? Record over recording. I think I have an idea of what you're saying. Are you meaning like record over another, or I'm not sure what you mean, Leslie. I'll look back in the comments and see. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. I don't know if you want to elaborate, because it'll take a minute for it to finish up. But I love you guys. I'll be back Wednesday. Have a wonderful week. And with that, members, Patreons, working on stuff should be out tomorrow. Usually Tuesday is when I put stuff out for my members and Patreons. So, and then we'll have to try to do a makeup live show as well for the members. All right, guys. Much love. Have a good night, afternoon,